A creator that goes by the NamesJunkies made a 20-minute video discussing the animation community and how it isn't dying. Now, I've watched the video in its entirety, and I can say that it has zero substance whatsoever. Disclaimer, I have nothing against the guy. It's just this one video. I haven't actually watched his entire channel. So I'll be talking about this video and how not good it is. Okay, let's run through 20 minutes in like 5 minutes. We start off with a 45-second intro. Nothing really wrong with that, however, I'll mention it later. Okay, 1 minute in, and he specifically mentions about the storytime animation community and how they were the ones getting criticized the most.
Recently, however, people have become much more critical regarding animation on the platform. To be more specific, the animated storytime community and YouTubers who have walked away from the community have been shoved into the depths of a fiery hell, as some would say.
So I thought to myself, maybe the entire video is on storytime animators, as there's no other reason to highlight that.
Those are just a few that I've seen around the internet when it comes to criticizing these creators and how they're quote-unquote dying or whatever.
He's saying dying. I'll gladly be proven wrong, however, I do not know a single person in the community that actually said the community was dying. Otherwise, I don't know who he's arguing against. The only one that mentioned it dying is himself. Now, the stagnation point. I'll argue this before giving my own 2 cents. He goes on to say about how the algorithm prefers watch time and says it's impossible for storytime animators or animators in general to make 10-minute videos on a weekly or daily basis.
You see, back in the merry old days of 2014, YouTube released an algorithm update promoting videos with more watch time than views. The reason why this is important is because the only way you can get more watch time is by making longer videos. The problem here is that it's animation. Animation is an art form that's notorious for being tedious and time-consuming. So, making longer videos that had to be uploaded weekly, if not daily, in order to keep up with demand is an impossible feat.
In response to that, I say, who's telling them to do that? Who's honestly telling storytime animators to upload weekly or daily? Because for me, it's no one. Most animators I watch only upload monthly, at the most. Oh, that's the point over. While it's true that the algorithm does prefer content that is 10 minutes, there's a lot more variables that he ignored, and none of which he got into. So the entire 10-minute point is kind of irrelevant, because James, otherwise known as the Godwin's Out, his videos were not 10 minutes before he blew up. They were not 10 minutes after he blew up. In fact, the Subway video is only 7 minutes. So to say that you need 10-minute videos to actually succeed is false. There's no point in making a longer video in order to just get more watch time. Okay, maybe you do it for the ad revenue.
Laziness is something I've heard being thrown at the animators way too often.
Yeah, this point is really common. However, I'll explain it now.
Critics have pointed out how animators within the storytime animation genre will have no animation in their lips, or movements in the way their body moves, or whatnot. Thing is, a lot of the critics do the same thing as well. Turkey Tom, for example, has his persona keyframe animated throughout his entire video, whereas The Odd One's Out does a similar approach in his videos with hints of animation here and there.
The difference between Turkey Tom and The Odd One's Out is that Turkey Tom is not an animation channel. Whether he likes the stigma or not, he's a commentary channel.
Another example would be LS Mark, where his video Game Grumps Isn't Funny Anymore has the beginning with animated lips and body movements, and Jaden Animations does the same thing and maybe then some.
I don't know what the point he's trying to make about Mark and Jaden. He then goes on to talk about Rebecca Parham and how she doesn't use lip syncing.
Not to mention Rebecca Parham, who doesn't animate with lips at all and uses a Wallace and Gromit approach of expressing emotion without any mouth movement whatsoever.
And says it's like Wallace and Gromit. However, Wallace and Gromit use lip syncing as well. What are you trying to say? He then says,
I mean, are we really gonna be picky with who is lazy by this point? I mean, dude, if you're gonna call them lazy, then I'm a complete slob when it comes to this. I hardly have any animation to my videos. Not to mention, these people are drawing their frames by hand.
Listen mate, I'll explain it to you in the most simple way I can. You are not a storytime animator. If you were, your content will be equally as bad. However, since you're not a storytime animator, you're not compared to them. So you can't compare Turkey Tom and The Odd One's Out and say that Turkey Tom is also lazy because he doesn't use lip movements, because fundamentally, Turkey Tom is a commentary channel, and second of all, The Odd One's Out is a storytime channel. He then says that they draw their frames by hand, and yeah, they do. However, most animators only draw specific frames for scenes where action's actually happening. A lot of animators have assets for when they're explaining something, like stills and lip movements. He then goes on a tangent about Disney and how they reuse animation.
I mean, if we're really going to go down the lowest common denominator of terms of criticism, let's look at companies. Take Disney for example. Back in the day, their animation was all hand-drawn, frame by frame. But people began to notice in their later movies, there were some animation that was actually reused for future movies.
And yes, they do. This isn't relevant either. The only thing that's relevant is how the animation is time-consuming. However, even then, it's only specific segments, not the entire video's animated itself. You cannot compare Jaden animations to Walt Disney. They're two completely different ballparks. He cites the gaming community as a wee scapegoat.
There have been many videos parodying the animation community as a bloated mess that makes it feel like people are just way too similar to each other. And yes, that can be a problem, but the thing is, it's like that for almost every other community. Look at when the gaming videos were popular back then. There were people jumping on the genre left and right, with others blending into each other way too much.
What he says basically boils down to, well, if gaming had this problem, and so does animation, then how are you complaining about animation? Listen, if the critics' videos were about gaming, I'm sure they do the exact same thing. However, if they're making a video on animation story times, they're not going to randomly complain about gaming communities. What are you smoking? Also, Aaron Hansen is not a storytime animator. Neither is Ross Donovan.
Look, yes, many creators have abandoned the animation art form or simplified their work for monetary gain. But that's the cost they have to make in order to make it in by the deadline. How else are they supposed to make a living? If you're condemning Aaron Hansen for abandoning animation and moving on to gaming, then maybe you should treat Ross O'Donovan the same way, right? He stepped away from the genre since 2014, and even does gaming as well, same as Aaron.
They made Starbomb music videos, which are much more time consuming and a lot more detailed than the likes of the other ones out or Jaden animations. I get that your title is saying the animation community is dying. You stated specifically that the storytime community was getting the most criticism, and your examples used were storytime criticism, not the entire community. The animation community is far too wide. Your video is trying to cover an entire genre, when the evidence in your video is for one specific subgenre. This then leads into a 10-minute interview with several creators, most of them making animation memes, not storytimes, memes. You're involving an entire group that aren't even relevant into the conversation, which makes the entire interview redundant. I'm nearly done, but I want to ask another question. How is your video a rant? I did a bit of maths and found out only 35% of your video is actually ranting. The other 65% is an interview, an outro, and intro. And even then, your points are somewhat invalid. I would argue that the title is also invalid too, because only 35% is a rant. It'd probably be better as like an interview type video. You know the way you said about making long videos for watch time? Hey, maybe an idea, but maybe put a bunch of fluff in the video so we could get that sweet watch time. That's only a theory. No, I'm joking. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you to JoIsEpic for editing this video. I am at school right now, so I really appreciate it. And I made my own video on Storytime Creators, which isn't 65% fluff. So go watch it if you want. I'd appreciate the view. And thank you. Good night.